Okay, a royal welcome to everybody here as we get underway on this wet Tuesday. You know, it's very easy to say it's, rainy and gloomy and all use adjectives like what nasty weather it is, and it's good to train ourselves in what the Gemara tells us, that Gadol Yomi Gishamim, great is a day of rain, Kin Yom Shenivru Bo Shemayim Va'aretz, like the day that heaven and earth was created. Rav Miller, first of all, uses this. It's fascinating. Rav Miller uses this as a premier example of proper chinuch. He says a child has no pre-programming about how a rainy day should be. But if the parents always say it's gloomy, oh, look, it's raining, the day is ruined, then that's what the child is going to grow up viewing rain. The fact of the matter is I've been working on myself to think, it hasn't rained for a while. There's a lot of thirsty rabbits and squirrels and cats and dogs, and now that it's raining, they're all having a drink, they're washing themselves, and if you think about the magnitude of how many creatures are benefited by it, it gives you a different vision in Masher Ruach Umarid Agashem. We are dedicated by A.B. Spry for the nachas from his whole family, by Michal Avram Chavin, first of all, that he should have a refuah shalem, his eyes should be perfect, Michal Avram ben Iris, and also that everybody should finish Shas with Gesund. We welcome in Saba, and we continue to learn from my mother, who had a successful surgery today, and she should have a complete refuah, Esther Fradel Baschana. We welcome in Aaron Swade, and Dr. Guy, and Irving Fishbaum, Mel Zachter, Ruvain Pollack, Shimon Deer, Shimon Klein, not sure who that is, I only see the ceiling, Menachem Yamansky, and Yitzi Fuchs, Michal Akta, Moshe Lehman, I know 28 is, Naftali Javelin, Ilya Shutman, Rabbi Kranz, that might be Stephen Holtzman, I'm not sure. We're joined by Richard Rosenzweig and David Gestetner, David Helfgott on Kol Lashon. Here in the shul, the fort is being held as by Reb Kramer and Reb Michal Avram, who bravo to him, who's here shortly after his cataract surgery, and that gives all of us chizuk. We are holding by Maskif Lo Rami Bar Chama 4 lines from the bottom of Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, so that would be, I guess, 33b5, right? 33b5. Before, okay, before B5. Basically, the Gemara had said, what's the mechanics if, let's say, that Ruvain gave Mel an animal to watch, or a kais to watch. So he said that if it gets stolen, and Mel says, I'm not swearing, I'll pay for it. Mel could swear because he's a shemer chinam and he's pater, but he says, you know what? I won't swear. I'll pay for it. Then if they catch the thief, he gets the kefil. And if they slaughtered it or sold it, he gets the daled v'hei. Now the question is, what's the mechanics in that? How does that work? That was itchy. Okay, that was itchy, and now comes in Stephen Stephen Holtzman. What's the mechanics of that? How does it? It's Ruvain's item. How does Mel get the kefil? So the Gemara had said that by Mel agreeing to pay for it, even though he doesn't have to, initially Ruvain is makna to him, gives it to him so that he should get the kefil. So the question is, how does that work? Ruvain can't be makna to him ahead of time. Says Gemara, Maskevla Rami Barchamava ain't other makna davar shaloi bala. He can't be makna to him the kefil. It didn't come into the world yet. It wasn't stolen yet. Now we know that Rameir holds that you could do business with something that didn't come in the world, and I could sell Stephen fruit that will grow from my tree, even before it grew. But the Gemara says, "Vafilu Rameir the makna davar shaloi bala olam," that you could transfer something that didn't come in the world yet. That's like the fruit of a tree. It's expected to grow. But over here, who says that it's going to be stolen from Mel? And if it is stolen, who said that we're going to catch the thief? That we're going to catch the thief. And even then, it's not sure if there will be kefil or dal v'hei. Remember, if the thief admits, who says he's going to pay? Maybe he's going to confess, and if you confess, he's exempt from paying a penalty. Amar Rava, so Rava says, here's the mechanics, here's the lumdus. This is the way the lumdus works. Amar Rava, it's as if Ruvain told Mel, when it gets stolen from you, and you're a nice guy, utishalmeni, and you don't walk away, but rather you pay for me for it, hari parasi knuyalach me'achshav. From now, my cow is yours. So what Ruvain is doing is, in the event that such a thing transpires, he's retroactively transferring the ownership of the cow that was stolen to Mel. And therefore then the payment goes to Mel. Says the Gemara, well, but if that's the case, then the shearings and the child that was born from that cow before it was stolen should also go to Mel. Mel should get the shearings of the wool and the fetus, since it was retroactively his. Alama, we learned that that's not the halacha. Alama tanya chutzim gives himself. He doesn't get the shearings and the offspring. So says the Gemara, well, we're going to tweak this a little bit. Very interesting how we're going to tweak it. Ruvain says you'll get it retroactively, except for the shearings and the offspring. So the Gemara says, my paska, why does Ruvain give him the kefil, give him the dal v'hei, and not the shearings and the offspring? So the Gemara says, that's simple. Stama de milsa, shvacha da'asim amela, something that comes from the outside, so it's not expected income from Ruvain, kefil, dal v'hei. He's ready to give that over. Of it in the miknei. Shvacha de megufa, the shearings, and the fetus, which Ruvain expects to have from his animal, lo yavid inish the miknei. He doesn't transfer. That's one answer. The Gemara says another answer, which is very interesting. The other answer that the Gemara says is tweaking the lumdus of when Reuven gives it to Mel. He says, if Mel is a nice guy, and it's stolen from him, and he pays me for it, and he doesn't take a shvua and get off the hook, I transfer it to him a minute before it's stolen. I transfer it a minute before it's stolen. So therefore the shearings and the fetus that came before that, that of course goes to Reuven. It's as if he says to him, if it gets stolen, and you're agreeable to pay me for it, right before it's stolen, it should be acquired by you. Says the Gemara, what's the difference between the two pshatim? The second shot answers Reb Zera's question. Why doesn't Mel get the shearings and the fetus? Inami, and this is a real lumdisha answer. Inami dekaima ba'agam. The difference is where the difference is where at the time before it was stolen, the animal was in the marsh. So if according to the second shot, Reuven transfers it to him right before it was stolen, then Mel doesn't get it. And Mel doesn't get the kefil. Because if it's in the marsh, there's no way for Mel to acquire it. If it was in Mel's house, so then he could acquire it, because he acquires it with his chutzah. But if it was in the marsh, even though Reuven says it should be transferred for him, if it's transferred from the beginning, that's when Mel made Mashiach on it. So he gets it retroactively. Now, we're down many people tonight. I wonder where everybody is. Well, only have 20 Zoomers here tonight. We're missing. Here comes Mo Kushner for our 21st Zoomer. We're missing Mark Frankel and Shalom Fogel and Marshall Castle. I don't know if any of you ever heard of him. Our cover, Adaf Gedalia Engel, is still in the middle of Sheva Brachas. We don't have Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg here tonight, but we're missing a lot of people. Sandy Grunfeld is not on tonight. Mo, wonderful to have you, Mo.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very, very welcome. Now, Shileim v'loy ratza lishava. If Mel pays and he doesn't want, he's not going to swear. As a shomer chinam, he could swear that he wasn't negligent and he doesn't have to pay Reuven. But he opts not to swear and to pay. Here comes the Gemara, interesting shayla. What if Mel says he's going to pay? He didn't pay yet. Is that enough that Mel should get the kefil? Is that enough that Mel should get the tal v'hei? Or is it only if he actually paid? So Amar Rab Chia bar Abba Amar Rab Yechon lo shilem mamish. He doesn't have to. And speaking of the devil, says the Gemara, says the Gemara, Amar Rab Chia bar Abba Amar Rab Yechon lo shilem mamish. It doesn't mean that he actually had to pay Reuven. Elakaven she'amar hareini mishalim. Once he says, I'm going to pay, afal pi shaloi shilem. Even if he didn't pay yet, he's entitled to the kefil, he's entitled to the dal v'hei. I want to apologize to you, Marshall. When you came on, I said, speaking of the devil, so I apologize that I insulted the devil.
I'm sorry to have run out, but sorry.
You look very spiffy tonight.
Hey,
This is the new and improved Marshall, Rabbi say.
Chas Shalom, don't do that to me.
Now, Tanan. So the Gemara says from the Mishma, it's not mashma that we just said. It says shilaim v'loy ratzah lishava. If Mel paid and he opts not to swear, it's mashma shilamin. Only if he actually paid. Loy shilam. If he just said he paid, loy. So the Gemara says, yeah, but at the end of the Mishnah is masha, and Sandy Grunfeller just joined us. Ema seifa nishba v'loy ratzah lishalim. If he swore and he doesn't want to pay, then he doesn't get the kefil. Time of the loy ratzah. Haratza, but if he wants to, even if he just said he's paying, he gets the kefil. Ella, since there are contradictory implications from the Mishnah, from these implications we can't derive anything. When we have contradictory implications, we just can't derive anything. However, Tanya Kavase de Rabbi Yochanan, we have a brisa that is proof to Rabbi Yochanan. If, let's say, Michael rents a cow from Ruvain, and it's stolen, and Michael says, Hareini Mishalem Veina Nishba, I'm going to pay, I'm not going to swear. Here it says clearly, he just said it. He didn't actually pay. The kefil is paid to the renter and not to Ruvain. Amra Papa. Let's get back to the case of where martial, it's martial law. There he is. He has his knife in his hand. Amra Papa. Shomer Chinam, if Reuven gave something for Marshall to watch without pay, Kevan she'amar pashati, if Marshall says, I was negligent. Oh, so by saying I was negligent, he obligates himself to pay. Right? He could have said that I wasn't negligent. He could have said it was stolen. As soon as he said I was negligent, so he comes forward with something he didn't have to tell us. Makna lekfeil. In appreciation of Marshall's astounding honesty, Ruvain agrees retroactively that he should get the kefil, because Ruvain could have been out of the money for the animal. Marshall could say it was stolen, and then Ruvain gets nothing. So again, Shemer Chinam Kevin Shamar Pashati, since he fesses up and says I was negligent, Makna Lake Fela. Then if we find the Ganav, Marshall gets the kefil. Why? Now why would Ruvain be so benevolent to excuse me, I don't want to use the word, but I'm trying to find a nice word. A slouch. A slouch that didn't take care of his animal. Because Marshall could have said it was stolen, and then Reuven would be up the creek without any money. Now, Shomer Sachar, let's say that Marshall was a paid watchman. Kevan Shamar Nignava, when he admits that it was stolen, now a paid watchman is Chaya B'Gneva Vaveda. So again, he fesses up that he is responsible. Now, he could have said that it was an einus. He could have said that it was an einus. He could have said, for example, he could have said that they were armed robbers. So Kevin Sha'amar Nignava, fessing up, and therefore agreeing that he has to pay, Makna Lekfela, the Ibai Pater Nafshe, because he could have excused himself, and it gives examples of Einus, Bishvura Mesa, that it fractured itself, it broke its feet, or died, which are an Einus. Or he could have said that was armed bandits. Now, shoyel, a borrower, right? He borrowed something. He's a borrower. She'aimer, now here, a borrower is always chayiv. A borrower is chayiv even for einsim. And therefore, Marshall is not doing anything benevolent for Reuven. She'aimer hareini mishalem. Reuven doesn't relinquish him the kefil. Reuven doesn't relinquish him the dollar v'hei, because Marshall is not being benevolent at all. He's chayiv in everything. So Sheila Barra, She'aimer Mishalem, Loi Makna like Fela. He doesn't transfer him to kefil. Because Mamai have a Leil Mifter Nafshi. So you say there is a case. There is a case. If the animal had an accident while it was working, that's called Mesa Machmas Malacha. It died in the process of while it was doing its work. So Marshall could have said it died in the process of while it was doing its work. And he didn't say that. So the Gemara says, that's very, very uncommon. However, others disagree. And others say no. Even then, for the fact that Marshall didn't concoct up an excuse that he doesn't have to pay Reuven, even a borrower, since he says I'll pay, Reuven is retroactively grants him the kefil or the dalvei. Now, Amalei Rav Zvid, Hachi Amar Abaya, by a shoyel, that which we say that Reuven transfers him the kefil or transfers him the dollar v'hei, there everybody says it's not enough that Marshall says I'm gonna pay. There everybody agrees that Reuven doesn't transfer to him until Reuven gets the bucks in the hand. And then Reuven, it's a good idea when you're dealing with Marshall anyway. But says why? Because all the benefit is by Marshall. In the case of a shomer, the shomer is doing Reuven a favor. Even a shomer sacher, he's still doing a service for Reuven, even though he's getting paid. The borrower, it's all for Marshall's benefit. So Reuven doesn't feel that he has to transfer it to him until he gets the bucks in his hands. My time, huh? Since all the benefits was Marshall's, he doesn't transfer him the kefil until he actually gets the money. Tanya Kavasei de Rav Zvid. We have a brayso like Rav Zvid. Hashoyel para mechaverai. If Marshall borrows a cow from Reuven, v'nignava, it got stolen. V'kidem hashoyel v'shilem. Oh, Marshall pays Reuven for it, and then we find the thief. So here it's clear that he paid it. So the Gemara says, according to the first version of Rapapa, vade lo yavik tiyufta. It's not a refutation, because Rapapa says, excuse me, Vikina Mashoil v'shilem, and the shoyl paid for it, v'acha kachnim tzaganev, and then we find the ganev. So this is an interesting thing. Let's study this. Hashoyel para mechavei, right? If Marshall borrows a cow from Ruvain, v'nignava, and it's stolen, v'kidem hashoyel v'shilein, and Marshall goes ahead and pays, v'achakach nimtza ganav, and then the thief is found, mishalim tashlumei kefil l'shoyel. We pay the kefil to the shoyel. So this is interesting. Yeah, I think there's a different gersa over here.
Shouldn't we be talking about that he didn't actually pay, and that's why?
I know. Please, 1 second. Yeah. See, I know what Rashi says, Rabbi Kranz, but when I prepared the Gemara, I learned it. I read it wrong, and I learned like Rabbeinu Chananel's Gersa. Because you have to understand, it's a little difficult. The reason why it says that Ruvain doesn't transfer it to him is because Marshall is not doing anything special. He has to pay, regardless. What's the difference whether he paid or he says he's going to pay? The bottom line is Ruvain feels he doesn't owe anything to Marshall because there's no reason for Marshall there's no way for Marshall to weasel out of it. So Rashi is the king of the Rishonim. But, so we're going to be gairis over here. L'lishne kamed Rav Papa, according to the first version of Rav Papa, Vaday havi tiyufta. It's certainly a refutation. Because according to the first version, it should never go to Marshall because Marshall doesn't have any claim to get out of it. So he's not doing anything for Ruvain. L'lishna Basra, but according to the second shot that says Marshall is doing for Ruvain, and is doing for Ruvain, and therefore that would be a reason to that would be a reason. Yeah, but then how does that work? 1 second. Yeah, that doesn't fit in either. All right, let's back up and learn. I mean, we should do it anyway. We should always learn like Rashi. Anytime you move away from Rashi's pshat, you go into trouble. You get into trouble. So I apologize to the Heilige Rashi. Let's go back again. Tani Kavasidi Reb Zvid. Hashoyel para mechaveiroi. If Marshall borrows the cow from Ruvain, v'nignava, it gets stolen. V'kidem hashoyel v'shileim, and Marshall goes ahead and pays. So he didn't just say he's going to pay. He goes ahead and pays. V'achakach nimtza ganav. and then afterwards the thief is found. Mishalem Tashlim Kefil L'Shayel, so the Kefil goes to Marshall and not to Ruvain. So the Lishna Kamadra Papa Vade Lo Yavia Tiyufta. It's not a Tiyufta because in the first version it says that that where Marshall just said that he was going to give the kefil. But if he actually gives says that he's going to give the money. But if he actually gave the money to Ruvain, then even by a shayl, Ruvain is makna him the money. Lishna Basra, but according to the Lishna Basra, who says that even if Marshall doesn't give the money, if he just says that he's giving the money, Ruvain transfers it to him because Marshall is being benevolent because he could have said it was Mesa Machmas Malacha. So Lishna Basra Lema Tavi Tiyufta, let it be a refutation. Papa says where it says that he paid, and we interpret it to mean he just said that he was going to pay. Over here also it means even if he just said he was going to pay, but since he's being benevolent, he could have said it was Mesa Machmas Malacha. Ruvain transfers him over to him the right to collect the kefil. Says the Gemara, but me dummy. What's the comparison? Hasam loy kitani kidem. How could you say that over here it means that he didn't say, he just said that he was going to pay? Here it says kidem, he proceeded. So in our Mishnah it doesn't say he proceeded to do something. Hacha kitani kidem, he proceeded. Proceeded seems to be that he already paid, not that he just said he was going to pay. Says, my kidem va'omar. He advanced that he was going to pay. Says the Gemara, but hamadik tani gabe soicher. In the case of the renter, va'omar v'gabe shoyel, and by the shoyel it says kidem. Doesn't that imply that he actually paid? Shmami no dafka kitani. So the Gemara says those two brises weren't taught in one breath. That you should say that from the difference, the subtle difference of the language. Those are two separate brises. Mide gabe adodi, Tanya. So shailinu l'tanoi. They asked the one that taught these brises. Shailinu l'tanoi debei Rabbi Chia. They asked the one that taught these brises, or debei Rabbi Yeshua, and the one that taught the brises of Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Yeshua. Ve'imrei gabe adodi Tanya. They were taught together. If they were taught together, then taka, when it says kidem and not Omar, it means he paid already. And if it means that he paid already, and even so, if it means that he paid already, if it means that he paid already, so then this would be a tiyufta of the second version. Because according to the second version, even if he didn't pay already, he would be given it over by Ruvain because of the fact that he was benevolent, that he didn't claim that it was Mesa Machmas Malach. Now, Pshita, it's obvious. Now, okay, it's not strange to us that Marshall is going to dray us a cup. It's not. What did you have to get undressed for the cover the shear?
Yeah, the cover cooking dinner.
You see, in case people don't know, this is really a culinary school. Just some people come here to learn. We are joined by Chicago Cordon Bleu. Now, by the way, tomorrow, next week, Tuesday night, Shira is going to be broadcasted from Marshall's house. I will be at Be'ezus Hashem. I'm going with my Rebbetzin. Our best friend is making a wedding in Chicago, so I'm flying in for Chicago night. So just to put it, and Shelley, Shelley here? Charlie's not here, but
It's at the same venue for Acosta. That's why I was all dressed up.
Yeah.
I was checking out the food to make sure it's good for your wife.
okay. Okay, thank you very much. Irving, you'll put on that next week, Shir, Tuesday, is 9 p.m. It's going to be 8 o'clock Chicago time. So next week, Tuesday night, Shir is 9 p.m. Anyway, hopefully with everything well and okay, I'll be back Wednesday for the Haggadah Shir. By the way, Rabbi Isai, we do not have a sponsor for this week's Haggadah Shir, which is like, I don't remember in many, many years that I've had such a difficulty receiving a sponsor for a Haggadah Shir. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. So Pshita, 2 lines from the bottom of Lamed Dal Lamed Aleph. I want to thank Hashem. This year was prepared in the surgical waiting room as I was waiting for my mom this morning, and I thank Hashem that I was able to prepare under those circumstances. Pshita, it's obvious, Amar Eina Mishalem. If Marshall said to Ruvain, I ain't paying, it was stolen, I'm not paying. And then he changes his mind. He says, you know, I'm a good guy. It was my responsibility. I'm going to pay. So then, he said he's going to pay, and he gets the kefil. He gets the dal v'hei. If he said, I'm going to pay, and then because of Amar Eini Misham, and then he changes his tune, that's Marshall after all, and he says, I'm not going to pay, what's the din then? Mi Amrina, and Reuven says, hey, listen, Buster, you're not getting the kefil. You backed out. You said you're not paying. And now you want it. I Dilma, no, but Mil say kai. He said, Reuven, I said I was going to pay. I said, I'm not paying. It means I'm not giving you the check now. It was just pushing him off. That's the first question. Amar Areini Misham. Now, this is not Marshall. This is not Marshall. We need Marshall for the long haul. So, Chatzkel was the shomer for Reuven. Amar Hareini Mishalem. Chatzkel says, I'm going to pay. Umeis. And then Chatzkel died. V'amar Bonav, and the children said, you got to be kidding. Ain't on a Mishalem. So do we say that they don't get the kefil? They're backing out. So they don't got their father's heart. Of course we're going to do what our father wanted. They're just saying we're not ready with the check yet. What happens if the children taka paid Reuven? Can Reuven say, look, I retroactively gave it over to your father because your father did me a service. He watched it for me. You didn't give me a service, I'm not doing it for you. I transferred the kefir to your father. He was a shomer chinam for me. I'm not giving it over to you. Listen, they didn't have to pay, and they paid, so they get the kefir. Shilem lebanim mai. Here again, we're going to give Reuven a break. And Marshall guards an animal for Chatzkel. In other words, Marshall is the shomer, and Chatzkel gave him the animal. And Chatzkel died. So Marshall paid the children. So now the question is, what's the story that Marshall paid the children? Shilam lebanim mai. Motzi Amrlek, could they tell him, Ki akni loch avuna kfela. Our father might have retroactively given you the kefil. Why? Of the sleiniach nafshe, because you did him a service. Avalanan, but you never did us a service. Lidi dunloi, you didn't do us a service. You didn't watch our animal, and therefore we're not being makir the kefil. Of course he's doing a service. He's paying them the money, and he's not taking the oath and getting off the hook. What happens if now we're going to take Marshall and Ruvain out of the picture? Because it's going to be, a multi-car crash. What happens is Chatzkel gave Shmuel a animal to watch, and Chatzkel and Shmuel were in a car crash. And now Shmuel's son says to Chatzkel's son that, I'll pay for the animal that was stolen. What's the din there? So there you have, both of them are not actual players. So maybe Chatzkel doesn't transfer to Chatzkel's children don't transfer to Shmuel's children the retroactively the animal that they should get the kef. Or back to Ruvain and Marshall. Shila Maktamai. If Marshall pays for half, he says, look, Ruvain, I feel bad for you. So I'll pay you for half. Is he entitled to half the kefil and half the dal v'hei? Or shol shtei paras, he borrowed 2 cows. Boy, Ruvain, I can't understand why you deal with Marshall. Even I'm going to his house. I'm bringing a taste tester with me.
Do that yourself.
Romanian Frankfurt is from, right?
So
You gotta bring Saba with you.
I can't leave his mother.
Another time.
You come here.
I hate to tell you, Marshall does pass the sniff test.
Okay, welcome, Philippe. So the next case is Shol Shtei Paros. Marshall borrowed 2 cows. They both got stolen, and he agrees to pay for one of them. V'shila machas mehem. Mai. Or Shol min hashutfin. He borrowed from Ruvain and Irving, and he pays one of them. V'shilam le'echad mehem. Mai. Does the one that he paid, he gets half the kefil? Shutfin sheshalu. Let's say Marshall and Dr. Guy borrowed from Ruvain. Vishilam echad mehem, and Dr. Guy agrees to pay, but Marshall takes an oath. Does Dr. Guy get half of the kefil? Mai. Shol min ha'isha. He borrows from the wife. She has nichsei malug. He borrows from the wife. So Marshall borrows it from the wife, and he pays the money to the husband. V'shilem lebala mai. Now the husband doesn't own it; he only gets to use it for. Isha sheshala. What about if a woman borrows from Ruvain? Let's say Mrs. Marshall borrows. Mrs. Castle borrows from Ruvain, and Marshall pays Ruvain. V'shilem balamai. All these cases, Teku, Tishbi Yataretz, Kushas Bibayas. Boy, is Elio going to be busy with Marshall. Now.
He's waiting for me with the bourbon, I'm telling you.
Now. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna adds an interesting element. We said that even if Marshall is willing to pay, and this is a very big kiddush, even if Marshall, now most of the time you learn he's willing to pay to avoid making a shvuah. But says the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna, Mashbiyan oisay shvuah she'ena b'reshusay. We still make him swear that he doesn't have it. Why? Because maybe, Reuven has this prize horse. So Marshall says it was stolen and he's willing to pay for it. But Reuven smells that maybe Marshall just wants his prized horse. I mean, it's coming time for the races and Marshall wants to cash in. So we make him mashbiyan oisay shvuah she'ena b'reshusay. We make him swear nonetheless that it's not in his possession. My timer. Chayshin on shema einav nosen ba. Because we're concerned maybe he set his eyes on it. Look at Rashi. Mashbiyan oisay amasnitzen koi. Afal pishu mishalem. Even though he's paying, kidiktani shilem v'lo ratz l'shava. Even so, mashbiyan oisay shvuah she'ena b'reshusay. We make him swear that it's not in his possession. Now, Meisvei, so the Gemara now is going to bring a long question on this. First we want to remind you of the halacha, which is known throughout Shas, that moide b'mikzas hatayni yeshava. That means if Reuven says, Rabbi Weiss, you owe me $1,000, and I say I don't, I owe you nada, nothing, zilch, I don't have to swear. If I say I paid you 500 and I owe you 500, then I have to swear. If you admit a part of the Tana, you have to swear. So now with that in mind, we're going to talk about a case of collateral. Meisvei. Hamalve eskaveira yalamashkin. Mel gives a loan to Reuven, and Reuven gives Mel collateral. The Ovid Amashkin. And Mel lost the collateral. The Amalai, and what Mel says to Reuven is Sela hilvisicha alav. I lent you a sela. A sela is 2 shkolim. Sela hilvisicha alav. I lent you a sela. The collateral that you gave me, the cup that you gave me, shekel yeshava. It was worth a shekel. I lost it. So you owe me another shekel. You're right, I lost the collateral with a shekel, so I'm going to deduct that from what I gave you as a loan. So you owe me another shekel. And Reuven says, the cup that I gave you was with a seller. Low key, ela seller hiviseni alav. You gave me a seller, and seller hayeshava, and the cup was with the seller, so therefore it's a wash. So in that case, Potter, Reuven doesn't have to swear, because he wasn't made of a mixes. He's saying that he doesn't owe Mel anything. He says, Mel, you gave me a loan of a seller, and I gave you collateral with a seller. You lost the collateral, so it's a wash. Seller hilvisicha alav. If, on the other hand, Mel tells Reuven, I gave you a seller, shekel yeshava, the cup that you gave me, the collateral, was worth a shekel. Now, there are 4 dinner in a seller. Va'ala oimer, and Reuven says, loiki, not so, ela seller ilvisani, you gave me a seller, and shloisha dinarim yeshava. And the cup was worth 3 dinner. So unlike what you say that I owe you a shekel, I only owe you a dinner. So here, Reuven is being moide b'mikzas hatayna. So here, chayiv. Here he has to swear. Because what happened, again, Mel said, I gave you a loan of a seller, and the collateral that you gave me is worth a shekel, so you owe me a shekel. And Reuven says, you gave me a seller, the collateral is worth 3 dinner. So I don't owe you a shekel, I only owe you 1 dinner. I don't owe you a half, I only owe you a quarter. But he's admitting to partial owing, so that's a case of Moed B'Miktzas, he has to swear. Sela Hilvisani Olav. Now this is an interesting case. Mel says, I gave you a loan of a seller. Excuse me. Ruvain says, and this is the normal. Normally collateral is more than the loan. So here, Ruvain says, Sela Hilvisani Olav. You gave me a loan of a seller. Beis HaYeshava. And I gave you a watch worth 2 slum. So therefore you lost my watch, you got to pay me a seller. And Mel defends himself and says, like he, I gave you a seller, and seller Yeshava, and the watch was worth a seller. I lost the watch, so it's a wash. So here, Potter, Mel doesn't have to swear because he's not admitting to anything. However, if Ruvain says, seller Hilvisani Olav, I gave you a loan of a seller. Shnayim HaYeshava, the watch was worth 2 seller, and you lost the watch, so you owe me a seller. V'alayim Eloiki, it's not so. Seller Hilvisich Olav, I gave you a loan of a seller, and the watch, hey dinarim HaYeshava. So I do owe you, but I don't owe you a seller, I only just owe you a dinner. So there, since Mel is being made of a mixas, he's admitting that he owes something, chayiv. And now, a cryptic statement. Mi nishpa, who swears? Misha pikodon etzlai. The one who the deposit, the collateral is by him. Why? Because we're afraid, Shema Yeshava lest one swear, v'yotzi alo esa pikodon, and then the other one will take out the collateral and make the person puzzle to swear. So now, what this statement is referring to? Ahai. Ilema Sefer, if it's going on the Sefer, so of course Mel swears. Because Mel is the one that's being made of a mixus. Ruvain said, you gave me a loan of a seller, and the collateral is worth 2 slum, so you owe me a seller. And Mel says, I gave you a loan of a seller, and the collateral is only worth 5 dinner. So of course Mel swears, because Mel is the one that's made of a mixus. So technically the shvur gabi milvihi, it's by the lender. He's admitting to the mixes of the taina, so that's not a kiddush. Elama Shmuel Aresha. It's on the first part. So the Gemara right away says, on the first part? In the first part where Mel said, I gave you a loan of a seller, and the collateral was worth only a half, and therefore you still owe me a shekel. And Ruvain says, no, the loan was for a seller and the collateral is for a seller, I owe you nothing. In the ratio there's no shvua. It says the Gemara, Shmuel Aresha, my Aresha. It can't be the first part because in the first part there's no shvua. It must be a sefer dereisha. What was the second part of the reisha? Seller hilvi sichalav. Mel says, I gave you a loan of a seller, and shekel yeshav. The collateral that I lost was worth a shekel. So you're right. We'll deduct that shekel. So you owe me a shekel. V'alayim loiki, and Ruvain says, I don't owe you a shekel, a half a seller. Ela seller hilvi sini alav. You gave me a loan of a seller, and shloisha dinarin yeshav. And the collateral is worth 3 dinners, so I only owe you 1 dinner. So chayiv, so Papashtis, who has to swear Ruvain, because he's might of a mixus. Right? who has to swear? Reuven, because he admits to partial, right? Mel says that I gave you a loan of a shekel, I gave you a loan of a seller, and the collateral that I lost was worth a shekel, so you owe me a shekel. So Reuven says, you gave me a loan of a seller, but the collateral I gave you was worth 3 dinner. And therefore, I only owe you a dinner, which is a quarter, and not a shekel and a half. So normally, Reuven would have to swear, because he's the Moed B'Mixes. The Shvua Gabi Loivahu, really, Reuven should have to swear. The Amar Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan say, no, we'll shift the Shvua on Mel. And make Mel swear. Why? Shtava Milva. We make Mel swear. We make Mel swear that the collateral we make Mel swear that the collateral was only worth a shekel, and therefore he collects a shekel. Why? Shemi is Shavazeh, maybe Reuven will swear, and then V'yoytzi Allah es a pikadon. And Mel will then take out the pikadon and prove that Reuven is a liar. But if Mel, according to what we said earlier, if Mel has to swear that he doesn't have it, V'im Isa, says the Gemara, V'im Isa, if we say, as we start the top of Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, V'im Isa l'Ravuna, that Mel has to swear that when he says that it was lost, he has to swear that he doesn't have it, because Shema Nosan Ein of the collateral, maybe he was eyeing the collateral, he wanted to watch. Kevan de Mishtava Milva Sheina B'Rishusai, since Mel swore that it's not in his Rishus, Heichi Motzi Mapikla, how is he going to take it out? Says the Gemara, it's talking, you know why Mel didn't have to swear? Amarava Sheyesh Edim Shenisrifa. There were witnesses that it got burnt. Says the Gemara, if there were witnesses that it got burnt, then what do you have to worry that Mel might pull it out? What are we worried that he might pull it out? Says the Gemara, El Amar Rav Yosef Sheyesh Edim Shenignava. There were witnesses that it was stolen. So the Gemara says, what are we worried that Mel might pull it out? So, well, says the Gemara, you know what? We're worried that maybe Mel will try to find the collateral. The Torah Chemaisila. He's going to go in trouble and recover it. So the Gemara will ask about this answer. We're going to take this up tomorrow. Again, Rabbi Isai, we want to thank you. As you see, every perek in this Masechta has its own flavor and its own identity. We also want to remind you that we're going to learn the Mishnah Yomis now.